Where's Patches? How the fuck did he send me here? All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So today we are doing the builds refresh for Garuda, the builds refresh 2022 for Garuda. And apologies, as there's been quite a gap, but Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring came out, so I've been quite busy playing those. If you would like to see that, of course, I do have twitch.tv/Brozime, and you can go watch extremely large amounts of content of hours of those games. But let's talk about Garuda. It's Garuda time. Garuda's, a fully mediocre Warframe that we can do some discussion on and talk about how she plays. Shocking absolutely no one. We are using Gloom on this Warframe that has poor survivability as a baseline. So the build is as such. And this build is 100% not complete. I should put Primed Sure-Footed up here. But Garuda can pretty easily complete the usual, anything you would ever use Garuda for without it. You really don't need it. The Prime Sure-Footed is just because explosive weapons and Garuda pair really nicely. And nothing internally on Garuda is actually going to very much matter for Prime Sure-Footed. It's really just self-knockdowns that you want to throw that in there. And I figured, might as well do a run where I'm not using Prime Sure-Footed, as I use it on a ton of Warframes that like explosive weaponry, which, as it turns out, is most of them. Otherwise, in this build, what we're going for is a huge amount of strength. We have a 85% slow on Gloom, and that's quite good. 85%, very, very nice. If we use our Parazon combo, we can get that to cap with the extra 100%, so that's very, very good for a huge, huge slow, but you usually don't need more than 85%. With that, we are only at 45% efficiency, but Garuda, that doesn't matter for, because we have Bloodletting. We can sacrifice 50% of our HP to regain 22% of our energy, and that pairs really nicely because we're using Prime Flow to increase our energy greatly, and we spend about 155 energy on Seeking Talons, and then we can very quickly regenerate that with Bloodletting, because when Gloom is active, we get Life Steal. So whenever we fire out the Seeking Talons, the slash procs hitting a bunch of enemies, that damage is going to pretty instantly heal us to full. We can just spam Bloodletting until we're max on energy. Real fast, real easy, not a problem at all. Also, we have Dreadmere. So Dreadmere is unfortunately the baseline survivability for Garuda. So it's a frontal shield. Unfortunately, this is very, very bad, but you do kind of have to use it because your survivability is so poor. Otherwise, we are basically using Gloom to supplement Dreadmere, because Gloom is a much better defensive ability that does what the ability we're replacing does. Plus, also, the stuns from Seeking Talons are greatly lengthened by our Gloom, meaning we have actual good survivability between those two things. But also, whenever you're just looking down a hallway, Dreadmere's okay, I guess. I wish this ability was a lot better. We never use the secondary functionality of this because it's super inefficient to grab the blood orb and charge it up and throw it and do all that nonsense. You should really just fire a gun instead, because that's going to be way more effective. But yeah, it's, a good amount of duration, a good amount of range, a lot of strength. The main important thing in terms of strength on her, if you're not going to be using Gloom, is that you get 100% bleed chance from the Seeking Talons, because that'll mean that whenever your Seeking Talons hit enemies, you just have 100% slash proc chance, and that can get out of control very, very quickly, especially on weapons that normally won't have access to constant, super fast, a ton of slash procs, and that'll deal with pretty much anything that's vulnerable to that in the game. With this build, Garuda plays extremely similarly to the way that Banshee plays, because A, they both use Gloom, and they both use a stun that is extended by Gloom in order to get the survivability that they need, and 3, they both have damage increasing methods that are completely negated by certain enemies in the game. There's some enemies that are just immune to status, and Garuda's increase in damage is going to do absolutely fucking nothing to them. There are also enemies that are immune to sonar, and Banshee's basically not really a Warframe that's doing anything meaningful whenever those enemies are what you're facing. Super similar in pretty much every way. I would say Garuda is slightly more survivable just because of Dreadmere, but you get the downside of the status damage increase, which doesn't work well on a lot of enemies. But yeah, oh yeah, in terms of arcanes, I have thrown Energize on here. She really doesn't need Energize. You can just spam Bloodletting, honestly, but it's thrown in here. It's basically an empty slot. And then Arcane Aegis is just for some additional survivability, which is nice. Oh, of note, because of the efficiency shields combo we have going on, Brief Respite, which is 150% energy spent to shields while overshields are inactive, plus Augur Reach. This is going to mean we regenerate all of our shields, like the whole thing, whenever we use our 4, because this is 155 energy. So we get our full shield gate back anytime we hit 4, which is really nice for survivability, because this is what you want to spam. That's also why we're using Natural Talent, is so we don't waste a bunch of time in our animations. This just speeds us through that, and we don't have to worry about it. So with that, this is going to be like super simple. I'm using the Proboscis Ceranos here, but there's not really... Well, yeah, his pause and also way too low level. Whoopsies. Hold your 4. You can cast it in the air. Go in, grab a shield if you really want to. Really don't need to, but, you know. Shoot some arrows into here. It procs a bunch of slash and explodes, and that kills everybody. That's pretty much the deal. It's a damage amp that just basically converts anything that you are doing into slash damage, and that's great. There was a time whenever you would use Wisps 3 in order to do a feedback loop of infinite damage, where you basically affect all the enemies with Breach Surge and then hold 4 and hit them with this ability, and then any initial damage you put into that would spiral out of control and basically deal infinite like looping damage into enemies. But 100% honest, that's too slow. And while it is fun, Gloom is just better, because what Garuda actually needs is reliable survivability, and the infinite scaling damage is outpaced by enough damage right now. So yeah, that's Garuda. She's okay and probably needs some help, and you know, a few things here and there, and it's kind of a weird place for her, because she's kind of just worse Banshee in a lot of ways and much more difficult to get. Anyway, her Prime is coming soon, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.
Scans show Grenier are harvesting Kuva nearby. Set off the alarms to draw them out, then steal their Kuva catalysts. Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down the environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach Kuva catalysts to begin harvesting. Life support on the way. I've delivered a life support capsule to the area. Activating it will buy you more time. Life support incoming.
Hey dreamers, we are up and ready to party.
I've delivered another life support capsule. The operative has just made their first discovery. Keep up the good work. When you need it, extraction is ready. share in this bounty. Hold out as long as you can. You are running out of time. Consider extraction.
You are a blade. You exist to strike. You strike to win. The lesson ends.